can!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, is there a larger crisis in the England men's cricket camp? Seems like the meltdown at Manchester was just one instance in a long list of what is emerging to be a bit of a pattern. Does England have an attitude problem despite all the backlash, the summons and debriefs? A problem that persists. Divya Deshmukh's win at the World Cup continues to earn more reactions the world over. What does this win say for the sport and the surge in the country? Will the West now stop doubting India's status as chess's superpower with the collective rise of the Indian men and women now? And what was the secret to England's Euros win over Spain? A castle, Lego blocks and a furry creature all managed to get the players in the best possible shape to take them to a historic win. But first, the headlines on Sports 360. Starting with cricket, Australia beat West Indies in the final T20 international by 3 wickets to stay unbeaten in the series. Put into bat first, West Indies were bowled out for 170. Mitchell Owen's quick-fire 37 and Cameron Green's 32 of 18 saw Australia giving West Indies a 5-0 whitewash. In women's cricket, India's Smriti Mandhana lost her number one ODI batter's spot to England captain Nat Sciver-Brunt. The Englishwoman scored 160 runs across 3 ODIs against India recently. Brunt now has a 3-point advantage over Mandhana. Meanwhile, 2 other Indian batters made giant strides. India captain Harmanpreet Kaur leaps to 11th from 21st. And middle order batter Jemima Rodriguez progressed 2 spots up to 13th. In football, Colombia edged past Argentina in penalties to enter the Women's Copa America final. The semi-final was goalless in regulation time. Having finished runners-up on 3 occasions, the country is now eyeing their first Women's Copa. Colombia will face the winner of the second semi-final that's to take place between Brazil and Uruguay. In badminton, Satvik Sairaj, Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty have returned to the top 10 in the men's doubles world ranking, climbing up 3 spots after they reached the semi-finals of the China Open. The duo were ranked number 1 last year after winning the Thailand Open. And a Texan, Michael Lewis, has pleaded guilty to stalking and harassing WNBA star Caitlin Clark. He has now been sentenced to 2.5 years in jail. Lewis was arrested earlier this year after he sent threats and sexually explicit messages to Clark late last year. The court also ordered Lewis to get a mental health treatment. Who does cricket belong to? Truth is, no one, but England seems to have forgotten that. And no, this isn't just about the Manchester meltdown. There seems to be a bit of a pattern now. Making me ask, is the attitude of the England men's cricket team in desperate need of an overhaul? Take the skipper, for instance. He was coming into this all-important series with a lot of questions to address. He was under fire. He had a point to prove, and he did. The 13th Player of the Match award, incredible comeback of sorts. Stokes is arguably one of the best all-rounders the world has seen, no denying that. But what will his legacy be? Now that's a question that will make me pause a bit, because this series, Stokes and England under his leadership, have displayed appalling attitude. They say the true test of any leadership is not when things are going well, when the team is winning. It's when the team is losing. So in keeping with this narrative, all was well as long as England was winning. But saying India won the second, saying that India won the second test because conditions resembled the subcontinent, pointing fingers at the ICC for fining and docking them WTC points for slow over rate in the next test, to of course the horrific display of entitlement in Manchester. And there are enough instances in the recent past to say with conviction that there is a serious issue with the England attitude. The comments some of their players have made to the media, not being too concerned after a whitewash to India in India, saying Champions Trophy was far more important and they'd win that, and only to return without winning a single match there. Claiming India's Yashasvi Jaiswal's explosive batting was Bazball inspired. All this only points to arrogance and an attitude that only means that they are too good for the game, that any fumble is not on them. A loss is not a time to self-reflect but deflect, to the extent that an error in judgment is not acknowledged but owned. Who decided to make England men's cricket team the custodians of the sport itself? Agreed, there have been legends who came out of the England men's dressing room over the decades, players who went on to be ambassadors of the sport. Ian Botham, David Gower, Nasser Hussain, Alistair Cook, James Anderson, Graham Gooch, Mike Atherton, Andrew Strauss, and there are of course many more I'm not naming here, but that alone can't give them the right to be the moral and ethical police of the sport. Yes, Lord's is considered the mecca of cricket. They have a storied history, there's legacy there, but that legacy doesn't just rely on the past. It has to be carried forward and preserved each decade, each year on, and not just via performances and results, but sportsmanship and grace. When Brendan McCullum took charge, they transformed the way cricket was played. They wanted to shake up the system and rewrite the sport itself, and they did. But there's more to this, to cricket, than statistics and numbers. McCullum, ahead of England's series against West Indies, and that happened before the series against India, said there has been a team debrief and everyone will watch what they say here on. But is that really enough? There has to be a shift, and that cannot only come in measured and small responses. It has to come with a call to overhaul and look in the mirror. Take the tough decisions to get the results you truly want. And England needs some soul searching to do too, because right about now, the question is not just about the present, it's also about the future. Is this what coming generations of England cricket want to really build on? India is still riding high on Divya Deshmukh's historic triumph. She isn't just India's first ever Women's World Cup winner, she is now the country's fourth female grandmaster. This victory isn't just monumental for India, it's a game changer for the sport. Divya's win signals a seismic shift in the sports landscape itself, because now a new era is here. The FIDE Women's World Cup in Georgia was no ordinary tournament. It was a roller coaster thriller, a fierce mix of young prodigies and battle-hardened veterans. Matches that went right down to the wire, and an unyielding Indian spirit that refused to be ignored. In the final, it was a heavyweight clash. Two of the best women players on the planet, Koneru Humphrey, the seasoned veteran, pushed the match to a nail-biting finish. But in the end, it was the 19-year-old rising star who claimed victory, defeating the 38-year-old legend in a tense tiebreak. An emotional journey for India's newest female grandmaster. Shocked, emotional, ecstatic, Divya entered the tournament hoping to notch a few grandmaster norms, maybe boost her rating, but sky was never the limit for this teenager. She stunned the chess world, toppling former world champion Tan Zhongyi in a marathon battle, defeating the in-form Zhu Ziner in the fourth round, and of course overpowering the tournament favourite, all en route to becoming India's 88th grandmaster.
I need time to process it. I think it was fate, me getting the grandmaster title this way. Before this, I didn't even have one norm. I was just thinking where I could get my norm, and now I am a grandmaster.
Divya's breakthrough marks a historic year for Indian women's chess. Last year belonged to the men, Gukesh Domaraju's rise, the chess Olympiad, and even Magnus Carlsen's shaken dominance. But 2025 is the year the women have arrived, loud and clear.
We are slowly developing some depth. I mean, we were fighting with Harika and Humpy, then Vaishali joined, and now Divya, and slowly, and Ivantika bridges that as well. Um, and I think the men will be under some pressure when they play the World Cup in November. They will have to equal the girls, so that will be good, a little extra pressure for them.
With Indian women stepping up, one thing is crystal clear: the balance of power in chess is shifting. Something that even Magnus Carlsen probably forgot. Yes, the Indian women were only waiting in the wings to explode on the biggest stage. And it was not just about the World Cup win here. It was about two finalists, both coming from India. And that has got the chess world to sit up and finally take note. For years, it was Koneru Hampi and Harika Dronavalli who tirelessly stood guard. What was missing, of course, were those big results, performances on the biggest stage that could truly give chess the surge it now finally sees. The Indian women won the Olympiad last year, and now a teenager claimed a world title. Chess already saw a revival in the country after Gukesh's World Championship win last year. Now, with the women too fighting for that spotlight, one thing is certain: India's dominance cannot be ignored. Despite the big titles over the last few years, many strong voices in the sport have kept questioning India's status as a superpower in chess. They doubted whether this was a tornado or just a few waves here. But this collective push and glory from both the men and the women says that the West can no longer doubt the tide anymore. It has changed, and it is signaling an Indian resurgence. They have now battles to fight on all possible fronts. England's historic UEFA Women's Euros win wasn't just about goals, grit and glory. It was a fairy tale with studs on. The Lionesses gave football fans in England something they've craved for decades: a trophy with heart, fight and flair. And while their dominance on the pitch was undeniable, off the pitch it was Lego blocks, a Disney castle, a piano and even a puppy named Reggie that powered this dream run. Our next report tells you how England's champions won the tournament and a million hearts.
The Lionesses conquered Europe again. Champions of the continent for the second time, beating World Cup winner Spain in a nail-biting penalty shootout. A win that will go down as one of the most memorable ones. So what sparked this calm, collected and clinical England side? Sure, resilience, discipline, grit, but also fairy lights, Lego bricks, family time, espresso shots and a four-legged therapy dog that stole everyone's hearts. Their base camp in Switzerland, not just any hotel, a literal castle. And how did they get there? Via funicular, a cable ride. Well, because if you're writing a fairy tale, might as well make the entrance just as majestic. Inside the castle, Michelle Ajimang played her piano to relax between games.
I play the piano, the bass guitar and the drums. I have my piano in my room, so I am spending a lot of time in there just playing and chilling.
Meanwhile, Lauren Hemp, yes, one of England's brightest forwards, was building Lego castles. Together, they even made a replica of the stadium where they eventually lifted the trophy. Manifestation done right.
I didn't know she had really good skills. When it came to Lego, we made a replica of the stadium and now she wants to make it a tradition. So I think we'll have to do Geneva next time.
And then there was Reggie, a cockapoo with charm, cuddles, and the energy of 1,000 walkies. Brought along by the team's personal barista, Reggie was the emotional support animal that the entire squad did not know they needed. And did he deliver? He became the mascot, the moral booster, and the star of the party post the win. Honestly, if there was a medal for off-field impact, Reggie would take the gold. This isn't new though. Team USA's gymnasts had Beacon, a golden retriever, during the Paris Olympics. Now England had Reggie, and you can't argue with the results. Beacon helped US dominate, Reggie did the same for England. The other thing England got absolutely right: family. Instead of isolating players, the FA built a space where the families could join but not overwhelm them.
You can get a coffee with your family, but at the same time there is no pressure to see them as well. The families tend to become a family away from the pitch.
So in the end, this was more than a tournament win. It was proof that elite sport can be soft without being weak. That you can wear crowns and cleats at the same time. That puppies, pianos, princess castles and penalty shootouts can all coexist in a championship story. And if anyone ever tells you wives don't win trophies, just point them to England's Euro 2025 fairy tale. Because these Lionesses didn't just win a tournament, they rewrote the playbook for what winning looks like.
Time for last serve. Nigeria is celebrating their women's team's historic triumph. The Super Falcons beat Morocco to win the Africa Cup of Nations for the 10th time. From fans to the President Tinubu, everyone hailed the most successful football team in Africa. Take a look.
Today you return home as champions of Africa. We could not be prouder, and it cannot be more historic. You made us very, very proud. I hereby direct the allocation of 3-bedroom apartments
Well, that wraps it up here on First Sports. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care. Bye-bye.